There's a lot of volatility and uncertainty in the markets, and Bitcoin is trading, consolidating sideways, and people are trying to tie this to trade wars and tariffs. But according to Jack Mallers, this is bigger than tariffs. This is the post-World War II economic order unwinding.
This is bigger than tariffs. This is the post-World War II economic order unwinding. People think that this is about Trump's tariffs or about trade wars with other nations. It is not.
So we'll unpack that. Stay tuned. Tired of meme tokens that promise the moon but leave you holding the bag or just rug? It's time to flip the narrative. Flapjacks launched transparently with locked liquidity, token burns, and real-world utility like exclusive fitness perks. This stack is built to last. Forks divide, syrup binds. Join the stack at flapjacks.xyz. All right, you guys have seen before. I showed you Jack Mallers. He is the CEO of Strike and basically a Bitcoin transaction app. He's a Bitcoin maxi, been around the game. I think he said his dad introduced him to Bitcoin in like 2012. So he has been around for a while. His company got debanked from the bad regulations and stuff before. He is a solid voice of reason, and he breaks down in this video, that's what we're going to cover, how the entire economic model for the global trade is changing right before our eyes. So it's kind of a long clip like this. I think he goes live once a week, maybe twice on the Money Matters podcast. And this is almost 2 weeks old now, but he's still got some solid nuggets in here. I'm obviously not going to play the whole clip, but we are going to break down a few key pieces that really help me understand how all this works together.
Okay. The United States has spent the last 80 years or so running what's called a trade deficit, sending dollars abroad to other countries, exporting dollars and importing goods and debt. Okay. This system is no longer sustainable. It was never built to last, and it is coming to an end. This is not.
So that is eye-opening for me. Like, I've learned about this, but never really articulated in this simplistic way to like wrap my head around it. It's like, yeah, we are, and he goes into this more, but we are the global we. The United States is the global reserve currency, meaning they give everyone else their dollars. And then in exchange, they import the goods and services from every other country. So that's why when you're in the US and you go look in your store or your supermarket, you find that goods and services are coming from like 80% elsewhere, and most of it is no longer made in the USA, because in exchange for those goods and services we give them dollars. So that's been working, like you said, for about 80 years. But now all these other countries have the ability to, I'm not gonna say be self-sustaining, but they have a decent middle class, working class, and they're like, wait a minute, why are we taking these dollars? We can do something else with this. So that's where this idea of this is unwinding, and where Bitcoin ties into this picture.
Misunderstood. Sometimes people say, man, the US has the world reserve currency. They're so dumb. Why do they have so much debt? No, you're misunderstanding. They have so much debt only because they have the world reserve currency. Their job is to constantly be exporting the dollar. Now, what does that do to your local economy and to your country? It hollows out the domestic economy over time. The world kept needing dollars, so the US kept printing dollars, okay? That means we stopped producing actual stuff, okay? So our industrial power went to shit. Factory jobs, our middle class, everything. Like when I'm using the term hollowed out, like the inner structure of America decimated. We talk about things like the wealth gap. Look around. If you're an American listening to this, go into your pocket, look at your phone, look at who made everything around you. It's probably not in the United States of America. The middle class no longer exists here. The wealth gap is massive. You're either on the far left, the far right, as far as monetary wealth in place within our economy. So this is not a very sustainable. Listen.
And that really drove the point home for me again, because that is the exact reason why I left the US, is because that being in the middle class. So if you have a low six-figure income, let's say 70 to 150K now, you're like middle class and you can get by decent. But if you can take even half of that and go move to another country, you literally live in the top 1% in some cases, definitely 10%. So it's like that middle class opportunity, is not there. And that's why the prices of goods and services and stuff keep going up. And you just feel like, or you see now with the next generation, it's like you can't get the same house and quality of life that the baby boomers had. So the way he explained this, that it got hollowed out due to kind of exporting the dollar out and then not building that middle class in the US, like it makes so much sense now. Like that's again exactly why I left and why I'm now traveling to South America, is because like living as a middle class person or with a middle class income from US standards, I can live in the top 1% in like practically every other non-westernized country in the world. So there's a huge gap there and a huge opportunity.
It's obvious. It's not.
Now we're going to go into a little bit of what the issue is with the rest of the world and how being the global reserve currency is a, he calls it the Tripton's dilemma. I'm not familiar with that actual definition, but by becoming the world reserve currency, you're basically creating a system that is not sustainable, and like nobody else wants that, and nobody is vying for that next position. Once you have it, you're kind of a slave to it.
This is known as the Tripton's dilemma. It's having the world reserve currency. It is a system that is built to fail. Now, the world obviously knows this, okay? China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, the BRICS nations, none of these countries want dollars. They're all dumping their treasuries, okay? So guys, listen, I'm not making any of this up. This isn't a genius insight of mine. All these countries are screaming from the top of their lungs. They're not trying to do it secretly. They're not trying to do it maliciously. They're not trying to do it combatively necessarily. They're saying, hey, we don't want to use the dollar for trade anymore. We don't want your treasuries. China's been dumping treasuries for almost a decade. You say, why would I own treasuries when the purchasing power of the dollar continues to go down and has to go down? Okay. They're saying, hey, let's explore things like gold. Let's explore something else. Russia and China are now settling increasing amounts of trade in the yuan. Okay, it's not a secret that all of these nations are de-dollarizing. So this is not a theory I made up in my room. This is very public. You just have to tie the pieces together, is that none of these countries want to hold US debt as their reserves anymore. This is very obvious. The US is struggling to find purchasers of their debt, okay? The financial crisis of Silicon Valley Bank was because the US was relying, is the kind way to say it, but forcing our own banks to be buying our debt. And those long-term duration instruments force them to go insolvent. So we're forcing our own financial institutions to buy the debt because other nations don't want to do it anymore, okay?
And we saw what happened with that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And he talked about this, I think, later on in the clip. And I might do a part 2 on this because, again, this is the simplest explanation I've heard for this debt-based fiat system and understanding how the global reserve ties in, how other nations tie in. Like Raoul Pal's macro thesis and the everything code is in this as well, but I've never heard it explained this simply the way Jack does. So this just helps you wrap your head around everything and then not get shaken out or uncertain with the volatility or just the sideways chop in the markets. So the TLDR is that the system has to continue, and the only way to do it is to inflate away the debt. Like there's no other way out of this. And then Jack explains again in the later clip is that other countries are going to start moving back towards a neutral, sound money policy, like what they had before the US became the global reserve currency. So they were all using gold and they all had their own stockpiles of gold and of course commodities, things of that nature. So what he's expressing here and that we're seeing happening right now, and that's what Trump is trying to leverage, is he needs to weaken the dollar and inflate away the debt so that they can turn on the money printer again. And even if, Raoul Pal mentioned this, even if the Fed doesn't play ball because Jerome Powell and Trump don't see eye to eye, China and the other Asian countries, even Russia, India, they all have to do something about their debt. So everything is tied to the US. The US still has kind of some sway because of these other countries that do currently still have our debt. But as we kick this can down the road, like Jack just mentioned, they're less and less likely to want to hold it. And that goes into another opportunity with stablecoins. Stablecoins are basically allowing the middle and lower class person to buy the US debt. So instead of trying to leverage it to countries, you got Tether and USDC, being able to issue that to the local person. And they're like, well, hell, I get, 10, 15% yield on this. And this is way better than whatever my local fiat currency is doing. So this entire thing is all tied together. And again, the TLDR is that buy Bitcoin, stack sats, and ignore the noise. Because if you have Bitcoin, then you don't have to worry about what happens when the price of eggs and inflation goes up, because that is an inevitable path of being the global reserve currency and having a debt-based system, is that anything denominated in that fiat currency will always get more and more expensive. But if you get out of that rat race and get into Bitcoin as a denominator, then it will take less and less Bitcoin to buy whatever it is that you want in the future. So I'll probably play the second clip in another video where he does the actual solution to all this, which I kind of just glossed over a little bit. But you can check out the Money Matters podcast if you want to hear the whole hour and a half. But I'll definitely be bringing some more clips from him and some others from Raoul Pal in kind of this chopped up interview style dialogue. But I don't want to keep them too long because I know a lot of you guys don't have the attention span to stick around for too long. All right, that's all I got. Smash that HBO special, help brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below, and until next time, live daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.
Want to pay your in real life bills with crypto? How about send crypto directly to anyone with a bank account? Spritz Finance is a decentralized solution to be your own bank and connect your crypto earnings to real world bills and payments. They do not take custody of your assets and allow support on multiple blockchains and Web3 wallets. Sign up below using my referral link and you will get $50 back when you make your first $50 bill payment with crypto. Additionally, I will be using referral bonuses to airdrop, donate, or burn based on community feedback. Sign up now.